Welcome back to theCUBE. We are here at our NYSE studio. Of course, we've got our Palo Alto studio, and here in Wall Street, connecting tech and money. I'm John Furrier, host of theCUBE. It's our mixture of experts here. We've got two great guests. Piemonte, who's the president and co-founder of Tribeca Softech, Inc. Really doing a great job of bringing the people, the practitioners to the technology. And Ankur Patel, CEO and founder of Multimodal, doing some really cool agents in the enterprise at scale. Guys, thanks for coming on to our studio. We're here above the option floor, connecting Wall Street with tech. Good
John,
to see you.
Always a pleasure to see you. You guys do a great job.
Yeah.
Your format.
Tim, I want to start with you first before we get into some of the agent stuff, because I think that's really compelling. There's a real wave right now in the work that you're doing is connecting the buyers with real, kind of the companies that are really aligned with what they're trying to do.
Correct.
We are in a rapid, accelerated market. I mean, time to concept to deployment and production is shrinking fast. There's technical debt, brittle IT systems in the enterprise, and a lot of demand for getting stuff into production.
Yes, yes.
You guys are doing a great service, so hats off to you. Explain what you guys are doing.
Sure, absolutely. So, as you mentioned, the market is crazy today, right? So many new technology companies, great technologies that are coming out. So we address a very critical component in the market today of matching technologies with enterprise buyers, because like Ankur's Multimodal, it's a great technology. It's hard for him to get his name out there, and get exposed to some of these companies. On the buyer side, think of a CIO. I have CIOs tell me all the time, every company looks the same. I can't validate 100 different companies, so I need you as an expert in the field based upon my background in cybersecurity, hardware, software, DevSecOps, to come in and bring me those technologies that are truly game-changing. That's what we do.
And the pressure to have scale too. Ankur, you guys are working on some cool stuff. Explain what you guys are working on.
Yeah, so we have a platform to build out AI agents for core operational workflows in financial services. So a good example is lending. So think auto lending, retail lending like mortgages as an example. The idea here is you have agents that do start to finish, right? So they look at documents, pull information out, do that diligence that's required and make decisions. It's akin to having AI labor that is supporting human labor to deliver better end user outcomes.
What are some of the challenges you see? And I just was covering IBM's acquisition of Confluent. Some would say that they're on the one side of the stream, but they have a lot of customers. Obviously IBM will bring them in. You're seeing the pieces of the puzzle starting to form around agents. Because they got to talk to each other.
That's right.
I mean, what's the database look like? It's a lot of online transactions going on between agents. You get the protocols, you get the frameworks, but it's not that easy because these are large scale, horizontal systems crossing multiple databases. What is the challenge you're seeing on the agents right now? Because certainly people want these agents, but it's not like hitting an API. It's a little bit more challenging.
That's right. Yeah, I think the easy version of an agent is it's within an application. So having an AI feature, an AI agent within a closed wall, that's easy to do. But in most cases, if you want to deliver tremendous value, you need to work with disparate systems. So there's the hard work of how do you go and do context engineering as it's become known, to get context that flows from one system to another, and that's underpinned by usually not one agent, but several agents. So you're orchestrating agents across disparate systems, often which are old, they're legacy, they're clunky, and you have to somehow find APIs to go and power the back end.
Talk about the origination story and how you got here, because previously, Glean I just saw their numbers. They nailed the internal search there. They were on the RAG side. They were kind of looking at that horizontal data platform layer. Machine learning's been super hot.
Yep.
That was the gateway drug to generative AI. So hardened market on ML.
That's right.
You go to financial services, everyone's doing fraud detection. There's some clear winning use cases in machine learning. Now you got transformer technology, now you have this generative process. What's the difference between the two? What's your learnings? How did it all get started?
Yeah, so I think generative AI, today people still use it, but it's primarily for search and retrieval. So you're searching across information, getting answers back. Think of like a ChatGPT-like experience, but in an enterprise setting. It is still valuable, but it's mostly assistive. We think that the 10x experience is having autonomous agents that work in the background, doing work very similar to how people do it today. That is massively transformative to a business. You could power all sorts of end user experiences because intelligence is on demand and it's available at scale. And that's what we're playing in this game of agentic AI. And I think you're seeing that breakout use case in coding as an example, right? So the likes of Anthropic with its Claude Code, Cursor with its agents, you have long-standing coding agents that are able to run for hours doing work for a programmer. We're trying to take that similar experience, but do it for operational workflows.
Yeah, I was interviewing Jensen Huang from NVIDIA just last Thursday, and we're talking about AI Factories, one of our most popular series here on theCUBE, and his narrative, he's NVIDIA, he's a little biased, but of course he's super relevant right now in terms of powering the tokens. And of course, his version is, tokens produce intelligence, the tasks themselves are the super important role. So you got intelligence with tokens. Now on the capture side with agents, that's going to spawn more agents,
that's right.
A bigger context window, more reasoning, the scaling laws kick in. How do you see that connecting? Because now you're going to have these agents with more of an intelligent view. How hard is it for the enterprises to get this? Because AI factories are coming fast. So you got Amazon launching AI factories in the cloud, on-prem and edge. You're going to have data domain-specific intelligence in agents.
Yep.
So if you got an app with an agent, you got domain-specific issues and data to rock down. So you got data problem, you got the scaling problem. How do you see that all coming together from the intelligence standpoint? Because the agent's got to get the job right. You can't screw up an agent.
The good thing is that the foundation models keep getting better, so the labs are doing a phenomenal job of shipping that. I think the hyperscalers like AWS are building more of these factory approaches where you get to leverage multiple LLMs. You have building blocks that like a hyperscaler like AWS has, for example, the storage and the compute and such. But I think what's hard is taking that same capability and making it vertical specific. Because now you need to inject domain expertise that you as an organization have that's very unique to your business, and you somehow need to inject that into agents. So I think the horizontal capabilities are being provided by the foundation model labs and the hyperscalers, but then you have this big kind of flurry of startups who are building the vertical AI versions for their respective verticals.
Talk about that gap, because I was talking to some folks about this, and there's been well quoted kind of cliches or lines. Oh, an LLM's like having a bunch of interns, or jack of all trades. So the large language models are broad. They search the internet, but they don't search the data of, say, JP Morgan Chase.
That's right.
Like, they have their own data. So
that's
uncrawled or unindexed or whatever you want to call it. So now you say, okay, I want to bring my data, proprietary data, which is worth a lot, that's their value, to a model. You start to see these half-baked models. Amazon announced what I think could be groundbreaking, we'll see, but like, okay, it's open weights, you can figure out the weights, here's a half-baked model, bring your data, it's fully secure, run it on-prem, run it in the cloud on a VPC, run it on an edge, which hasn't been talked about yet, but that's going to be coming fast at Mobile World Congress. You got the hyper-converged edge. So that data, enterprises have been kind of voting with their wallets, saying, hey, we're not jumping into the Gen AI until we actually see a resilience bar of security that's high. And by the way, is my data not getting leaked? And let's kill these hallucinations.
I think you just nailed it, because when you look at it from a macro level, you've really got to look at, when you're setting up a strategy, you've got to look at the people, the process, the platforms that they're using today, and make sure that all of those are incorporated. Because when you talk about things like model decay, you're actually opening up security risks, right? And the CISO is a critical part. One of my other clients, Vistrata, actually deploys something called a vCISO, which is a burstable CISO on demand to address things like that, which is really cool. But I'm working with one of my clients is PPAC Private Bank and Trust, and they brought us in to actually look at their strategy first, develop that strategy, the use cases, put an ROI around it, and then methodologically look at what use cases we're going to roll out.
Well, take me through a use case, because I want to, because the psychology of the buyers are. They're under pressure, gun to the head, let's get scale, I want the benefits of AI, but then they have to kind of figure it out. What's it like? What's the engagements like? What are the what's on the table when you go to a meeting and hit the whiteboard? What happens?
Yes, I will tell you, and I'll let you chime in too, because he's got some great advanced use cases, but I like to start with the low-hanging fruit. There's low-hanging fruit like operational automation, right? Onboarding of clients, pretty simple. And that's not going to touch every facet of your organization. So it provides a lot of great ROI without breaking things. It's a great entry point into AI, right? Automation of all those systems. And then you get into international wire transfers that are certainly more complex. That's where platforms like Multimodal come in to incorporate those kind of things. So
what use cases are you seeing? What's the working meeting look like?
Yeah, so I think the low-hanging fruit are these operational workflows like lending.
Yep.
And the reason why lending is so valuable is by having an agent, you're able to reduce the time to quote. And the time to quote, if you reduce it, you are the first quote out the door, which gives you a disproportionate chance of converting. So we love these operational workflows where the use of an agent means that you could actually win more business. Because a lot of people view this from an efficiency lens, let's cut costs, and that of course is valuable, but the far more valuable piece is having agents that can drive more revenue growth.
Yeah, one of the things you bring back here is a good one, because like last year, the conversation around search was, reduce the cost, we get our knowledge systems kind of integrated, we can find out, put stuff into Slack, and where's that form, normal productivity, less of a top line revenue driver.
That's right.
So you're getting at the revenue. This is the #1 conversation the past 3 months we've had in the past month at reInvent and all the other conversations, like, okay, great, I can drive revenue. Because then the wins stack up, the wins keep it going versus the boil the ocean strategy of, hey, we're going to have this pan AI strategy across the globe and we'll have sovereign cloud. It gets less IT-like, more line of business thinking.
Yes.
You seeing the same thing?
Yeah, we sell primarily into the business functions. IT and engineering is always going to be involved, but it's business first. It's about helping map their business process to Tim's point, because you have to have the strategy right. But then you have to do the forward deployed work, so like a Palantir style motion, where you work with the business units to define their process, get the plumbing in order through the disparate systems. But what you end up with is a series of autonomous agents that are working as if they were members of the team to then all focus on top line revenue growth. And that excites that business unit owner and excites the C-suite. And it's where the bulk of the value from AI, I think, will ultimately accrue. Yeah,
you mentioned teammates, because I think that's the theme that's coming out of agents. Are they working as a team, and do they know the team issues? Not a generic token experience or context window with an answer. It's very domain and very nuanced when you have these teams. How do we write code? How's it documented?
That's right.
What's the workflow? The workflows are very specific.
Yes.
They're end to end. They have an outcome, sales or some task completion.
Absolutely.
This is kind of where the new enterprise is going.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And to be a CISO in today's market is a bigger job, a much bigger job than what it traditionally was, right? Because you've got to factor in all this new stuff.
All right, talk about the security posture, because security is, I won't say the gift that keeps giving, because it's really not a gift when someone's trying to manage the inbound surface area. With AI, that opens up more of the same security challenges. What are you guys seeing on security? Actually, a lot of work's been done with machine learning. Ankur, you have experience in that. How is that advancements with machine learning and now generative AI vectoring into the security practice? More automation, more autonomous agents. Is it an operational benefit? Is it a threat detection opportunity? Where do you see security? Because it's has to be built in from day one. It's not like, oh yeah, it's bolt on security.
That's the key, really. So the worst thing you can do is ignore the CISO's job, right? They've got to be incorporated in from the very beginning as you're planning these strategies so that everything can be accounted for. You've seen some very specific things in the market as well.
Yeah, so I think one big thing is, where does the data reside, right? So I think there's this push to keep the data residency and even the models themselves within the virtual private cloud of the customer. But then the other big thing though is, how do you permission the agents? Because just like employees have certain levels of access, you want to make sure the agents are properly permissioned or not overly permissioned. And on the flip side, employees that are working with agents should also have restricted access, because the agents could be overly permissioned, so the employee that shouldn't have access to information internally has more access than they should, and so you have to go and figure that out. So it's both external provisioning and security, but also within the organization.
It's interesting, you mentioned scale at the beginning of this interview about scaling up and having that kind of scale benefit. If you look at the work you guys are doing on the agent side, a lot of line of business, but then there's been a whole decade of Kubernetes and cloud native build out. So you had that whole SRE, still the same kind of persona that they serve, app developers. So app developers now AI native. You have this convergence between kind of like the large scale cloud native communities and now these domain specific applications kind of converging, because a lot of the shift left stuff we saw in in AppSec reviews, for instance, had a lot to do with, okay, what microservices you're running, we have a hard infrastructure. I mean, the DevSecOps, they've been doing hardcore engineering for a decade. Now it's boring and good, kind of like Linux, good, it's stable. How do you see that scaling in? Because now that's going to open up the IT hybrid environment to be the substrate to allow this new runtime agent model. So you got the substrate is the infrastructure, and then you got the runtime, and then I'll throw in another curveball. Architectural, storage, networking, and compute. You mentioned data. Move the data, move the compute to the data was the concept. Now it's like, no, leave the data where it is.
Correct, go
put it on solid state, you don't have to put in HBM memory, maybe put the fresh stuff in these large scale clusters. Have the agents go to the data.
That's right.
So like, everything is changing architecturally. Thoughts?
It's basically flipped on its head, right?
Explain what you guys see there, because I think this is confusing a lot of people. At the same time, people who figure it out get the spoils of the scale, they get the leverage, operating leverage of say cloud native, and then usher in the AI native piece.
To be honest, for me, I think there's a happy medium in finding that even keel, right? Where you're kind of deploying concepts of both to get the advantages of both. That's the tricky part that you kind of need to figure out as you develop your infrastructure.
Any kind of best practice you're seeing in terms of general architecture of thinking about this for an enterprise?
I think a couple of things. One is you still have all the things that hyperscalers deliver in terms of microservices. So a lot of the Kubernetes state, for example, still very, very relevant. I think what's changed though is from a security stance, it used to be you would have user interfaces and that would be the single point of entry. And that's what you protected the front face. Now all of a sudden with agents, they're able to go and really traverse multiple microservices on the back end. So now it becomes how provisioned are the agents, how do you prevent like threat vectors there and how do you detect them and ward off against them. It's opened up a whole new arena that I think is in some ways not entirely figured out. I think all of us are trying to figure out as we go, but that is kind of the new surface area.
I want to double click on that if you don't mind, because I think one of the things that came out of reInvent this year I thought was pretty significant shift was, if you look at what Amazon did, Nova was kind of cool, we're looking at that very closely, but their agents that they released 3 what they call frontier agents. Obviously frontier is a word that implies the next level. They put a Kiro agent, which is a autonomous coding agent, a DevOps agent, and a security agent.
That's right.
And now, if you unpack that, I've been covering Amazon I've been using Amazon since 2008, covering them since 2013. That's their DNA. Okay, so now you got autonomous coding. That means agents will be coding. So it's essentially having this coding resource. Then you have DevOps agent, which they have tons of data on their cloud. So they're essentially giving their customers a DevOps agent for all their working knowledge, and obviously security has to be built in. That means clients, your customers, are going to be deploying their agents. So I think that's a tell sign to what will come, because why wouldn't Amazon offer a DevOps agent to saying, hey, roll me up a cluster. Get Ultra servers with Lambda, they got container native. I mean, shit's good. Why wouldn't a company then deploy the same strategy?
Think of the benefits that companies are going to be able to deliver to their clients with all that good stuff.
And I'm envisioning customers having such good domain knowledge, they would want to have their own agents. So I think, do you guys think, am I overreacting on this, or what's your reaction to that?
No, I think Amazon got a lot of applause at reInvent for introducing those agents, because AWS, and I'm a huge fan of AWS and the other clouds as well, it is still clunky to work with. So now all of a sudden, if you could make the lives of programmers easier, right, and get the security posture right, and get the DevOps done through agents, that's a quick win. So if you look at things like vibe coding, the hardest part is not building the application, building the service. The hardest part is getting the security posture right and doing the deployments. Now all of a sudden, if you pair that up with the AWS agents, you could build a production grade application from start to finish there.
Yeah, I mean the vibe coding is a great example, because like when you do vibe code, I throw up a Postgres, thanks to all the guys that are doing that. I interviewed Supabase. They default for Anthropic. Yeah, okay, Postgres great, but that's not scaling. Now I got to harden the APIs. What's going to be my protocol? MCP or A2A. So okay, when you have to go that next level of taking that vibe code prototype, if you will, and make it hardened. There's some plumbing
Well, yeah.
There's some serious, like, you can't screw that up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like,
that's the thing you don't want to do is break existing, interactions and interdependencies by releasing some of this stuff.
well, you guys got a great opportunity. Congratulations. I just want to kind of wrap up and get into the psychology of the customer, because you guys are doing a lot of work together, and again, great work how you bring companies together. Awesome. What's the psychology in the enterprise? Last year we saw a lot of enthusiasm. Obviously RAG was a low-hanging use case.
Yeah, sure.
People knocking those down like it's nobody's business. Okay, great. Now you're starting to get into the practical AI value creation extraction.
Yes.
Lending, you guys see good line of sight on that. What's the psychology of the enterprise environment? The people deploying operations, the pressure to get revenue. What's the current state like? Are they confident? Do they have some confidence? Enthusiasm? Is it drop down to challenge? And what's the attitudinal scale of the buyer and the deployer? It's a great question.
And I see some incredible things. I see people wanting to scale without adding headcount, corporations wanting to scale. However, they're excited and scared at the same time. They don't know, how to go about all this and what technologies to use. That's our expertise. That's what we come in and deliver. But it's a real mix of excitement and trepidation. It really is.
Ankur, what's your thoughts on the psychology of the enterprise right now?
Well, I think the era of experimentation is over. I think there's been a lot of experimentation. I think people have POC fatigue at this point. So I think for developers, I think agentic coding has been so strong that they are giddy, they're optimistic. On the business side, I think is where I think people are much more focused on ROI, and I think it's been somewhat of a downer in the sense that they're more realistic about what is and isn't possible. But I will say people are looking beyond RAG. RAG was great for the last 2-3 years. Now it's like, what comes next? Where do we drive that revenue impact? So I think 2026 will be the year of show me the impact, show me the return on investment.
Yeah, and so like as they say in baseball, hit a few singles, get a double, don't try to swing for the fences. And then once you get these wins, the productivity curve and the revenue curves kick up. It's like 3 to 6 months in some of the stats.
It's going to be exciting to see some of those high impact use cases.
Guys, this is the year of practical, show me the money.
Yes.
Show me the money, that famous scene in Tom Cruise's movie. That's the world we're in.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Great conversation.
Appreciate it, John. Thank you so much.
Conversational AI goes to chatbots, generative AI shows the value, road to AGI is really going to come down to, one, just getting practical stuff done right, then we'll see the advancements. Of course, we're doing our part here in theCUBE at the NYSE, part of the NYSE Wired program. I'm John Furrier, your host. Thanks for watching.